Ahoy there, Lorcana fans. Welcome back to another episode of Local Lore, a podcast for Lorcana players who believe the best games happen in their own backyards. I'm here joined by my lovely girlfriend, Lindsay.
Hi, friends.
So today's episode is going to be chock full of some fun stuff. For the segments today, we're going to talk a little bit about the DLC Milwaukee ticket
Fiasco.
Fiasco.
Gotta talk about Lorcana news, and that is newsworthy.
That's newsworthy, yeah. We're going to do a little challenge where we try to speed run an overview of the Set 8 meta so that you can be prepared for Set Champs.
It's a hefty one. It's not just a few decks to run through. There's quite a list.
I picked out the 10 decks that I think you're most likely to see at Set Champs, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
And then finally, we'll end with a little welcome wagon segment where Lindsay's going to sort of go through the etiquette for Set Champs, but also just for Lorcana.
Tournaments, Lorcana in general. So I think, especially if this is your first round of Set Champs or you're in a new area or anything like that, just it was all a big strange world to me when I first started. So just a little bit of advice on what we've seen, what we think is best,
Yeah, I think it helps to know like what to expect in terms of like how you should interact with people, what you should do when you sit down at the table ready to play. We are going to do a little icebreaker before we start the episode proper. So, Lindsay, what is your favorite part about going to a Set Champs?
I think my favorite part, is I really like two things. I really love the competitive aspect, to feel like you're competing for something, like it is a tournament. It is, as much as I enjoy the competitive nature of League, and it still is like, there's something about like you have to be at the top of your game. Yeah. And yes, this isn't like DLC level, right. But it is for sure. It is right now kind of the most competitive that we get to see. So like, forcing yourself to kind of get into that competitive mindset. I like kind of our rituals around, and then for me, we only play in one league. We have a very friendly, very healthy scene here in Richmond. Yeah. And so it's a lot of the same people. A lot of people play at multiple leagues, but since we can only play at the one, we don't get to see everyone. But we get to see everyone at Set Champs. So it is fun to kind of catch up with everybody, see what they're playing, talk about Lorcana. Yeah.
It's a good time. And plenty of opportunities to play in our area, which we're very fortunate of.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think for me, I think the most fun part about Set Champs is actually the lead up to Set Champs. I find great, sometimes stress, but also satisfaction in selecting a deck or a couple decks that I feel good about playing in tournaments in the Set Championship season. Sometimes it's like I'm hyper focused on one deck. Sometimes I have a few that I'm not sure about which one. But that preparatory period, and we kind of wait till the last 2 or 3 weeks before Set Champs to like really hardcore decide, okay, what exactly is it that I'm going to play and why. But I enjoy that span leading up. It's both like stressful, but the good kind of stressful, like, waiting, like it's like a longer drawn out period of staying up on Christmas Eve. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyways, that's it for me. Also, I
think it's funny that you love that part. This is my least favorite part of Set Champs.
I know.
I hate that the week or so before you're in this like, I feel so good about Set Champs until the week before when you're like, okay, what is the exact list that I'm gonna run? And then you play a couple of matches and you lose a couple, and then you deflate your confidence, and then you're like worried, and you're, micro decision making of like, ugh. And it is, you love the deck building aspect. The deck building aspect stresses me out because I'm like, nah, it's 3 versus 4. But it can be important. So I hate this part.
And the other part I love is our tradition of getting margaritas afterwards. So
yes, that's a new fun tradition.
At this point, it's starting to become a tradition. It's starting
to become a bit of a thing.
So that's always a good time. So let's get into the episode proper, though. So today...
Yeah. Trigger warning for those who are still not emotionally recovered.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of you out there.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about the ticket fiasco.
At time of recording, it is today for us.
It is today, yeah.
I think this will probably come out Friday, maybe Thursday.
Yeah. So there's some hopefully time to heal those wounds.
That's right, hopefully so.
Or to pour salt in them and be even more enraged.
Yeah. So the first U.S. and I also think EU tournaments went on sale for the Disney Lorcana challenges. The tickets went on sale. For us, it was at noon Eastern time.
That's when tickets were officially went on sale.
Right. But that is actually not what happened. And it's funny because Lindsay was in the office. I was working from home. Both of us were kind of planning to, mosey on to the laptop at noon.
Well, I had a 12 o'clock meeting, so I was trying to hit refresh at noon, check out as fast as I can, so I could run into a meeting.
But at I don't know, what was it, 11:15-ish?
Yeah.
I'm cooking eggs for myself,
yeah.
And I get a phone call from Lindsay.
Yeah, shout out to the flower farm for, I got a quick tag, an everyone tag in the Discord channel that said, tickets have dropped early. And so utter chaos ensued into trying to get in. My coworker was trying to get in to help me just because it was because it would load, but then it wouldn't work. And just being torn between if this is the real release, I want to try and get tickets, but also being and then trying to also be respectful of pastime events in Ravensburger and them trying to I can only imagine what it was like to be on the dev team of their website and on their communications team.
Well, and so they had outsourced this to another company that's running the events, and so they don't even really have control outside of selecting a vendor to work with.
Well, that's what I mean. The communications team and the dev team on pastime events, who's supposed to be running the event.
Oh yeah.
So it seems there was maybe some glitch in the system of tickets and timing and time zones.
Right, because if we go through the timeline here, though, so it was supposed to go up at noon Eastern, and it did not. It went up at 11.
Yeah, as my understanding, I didn't realize this until 11:15, 11:20, sometime in there, that tickets were up. And so I started to get in. I called Ian to be hey, says tickets are live, let's try to log in. Then the worst was I was just trying to make sure that I had logged in. I did all of the pre-work. I set up my account, I put my card in, I did all the stuff. And then it just became the refresh game paralleled with scrolling through the Discord of the Pastime Events has a Discord specifically for the DLC event in Milwaukee. And so I was just trying, that was their my understanding was that was the main point of communication from the Pastime Events team. So fast forward to, there was some communication about some people had gotten tickets, some people were just I think they shut the website down at one point or another. And then moments, 1 to 2 minutes before 12 o'clock on the dot, their communication team makes the announcement that they'll be using a different
because they had shut down the tickets. It had been open at 11. It wasn't supposed to be. Some people had gotten them. They'd shut it down. And everybody's just back to refreshing the page that they had said they were going to use.
Yep.
Of course, most of the time you're getting a gateway error.
Correct. I've seen lots of funny memes already about people printing mats of the gateway error web page, all sorts of things. Yeah. So moments before, though, 12 o'clock, Pastime Events made it known that they would be moving ticket sales over to Eventbrite. And so it's a tough one because the people who were in the chat saw it. Luckily, I was there because I was, on the edge of my seat. I shared
Thank goodness you were, because if you had not been on top of it, I would have never known.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they were making announcements through the Discord. I found the link that was sent to me, and it was just hey, I better log on to that link. And we were operating off of the same information.
Yeah.
And, this is why we're amazing together and why I rely on her so much. Because she was all over 3 different Discord pages trying to figure
really
out
was.
exactly what to do.
I really
And I'm
was.
sitting there with, my
I
scrambled
hope my
eggs.
boss doesn't see this.
I'm just sitting there. I'm sitting there with my scrambled eggs, eating it, and I'm like refreshing the page and whatever.
Yeah.
And then of course,
It was a very high
no-
stress 45 minutes for me.
well, and I can only imagine the experience of people that
sure.
did not have the community integration that we had,
Yeah.
because I think it's a little wild, the last minute move to Eventbrite, because that's the last, if I'm sitting there refreshing, trying to get tickets, as I've done for other things, concerts and other tournaments for other games and stuff, if I'm sitting there refreshing, trying to get tickets, the last thing I'm going to do is take 5 minutes to go dig up someone's Twitter account, to figure out if things have changed. I'm sitting there, refresh.
Yeah.
So, that's a bummer.
Yes.
However, we were fortunate
We did get tickets.
because she was so, on the ball with figuring out what was going on. I mean, she found out, immediately let me know.
Yeah.
We'd let everyone we
Shared
knew.
with our group that
we
was
tried
planning to try to go.
Right, and we got in and we were
And it
able
was
to.
even a mixed bag.
We were able to get tickets. I mean, and I'm not exaggerating. 1 minute later,
They were sold out.
they were sold out.
Yeah.
So
It was.
I mean, I'm stoked. I genuinely
Yes, I'm thrilled. There is obvious guilt. There is obvious.
Well, I don't have guilt.
That's fine. I can feel guilt for the people who
I have
didn't.
empathy for the people that didn't.
Yes, I have a little bit of guilt because because of the way in which it was communicated. And background, I work in communications, so I am sensitive to this stuff. But the way in which it was communicated, if you were not in the right place at the right time, you would have missed the notification. And I also, the stress for all of the people in the unknown. So there was a lot of people who literally, 30 minutes ago acknowledged that they got tickets because they had tickets in their cart from the Pastime Events website, and then they shut down the website, so then it wasn't working, and then they just relaunched it, and so people were able to check out and get tickets. So it feels very messy. I can only imagine what it's like on their side to have to tally and make sure that everything worked out.
I don't envy anyone in this scenario. I don't envy, the players for sure, which, ultimately it's the worst for them in my opinion, because they're the ones that are so excited to spend their money to play this game, right? And they don't get to, a lot of them. We knew this was going to be a thing, but it's not just that it was okay, it's an equal opportunity. Everybody hits refresh and we see who gets it. That's almost like a lottery system, which maybe is something that they should consider, because that's actually how they do big tournaments in Japan for Pokemon. It's a lottery system. If there's so much interest, they need a way to do it fairly without it being, who has the inside track on the last minute change to a different website,
whose IP address snuck through.
Well, then there's that, right?
Work, so.
But that's basically how.
Don't at me.
Look, the lottery sort of pseudo effect is kind of what we all expected.
Yes.
And it just broke down because if you didn't know that it got moved to Eventbrite, you would have been sitting there
Right. And even on Eventbrite, it showed up, but you had to go to there was a see more details or something that you had to click. So it was just not
optimal.
Not optimal. Not.
But I also feel bad for the organization running this. What is it?
Pastime Events.
Pastime Events. Mm-hmm. More than that, I feel really bad for Ravensburger and their communications team.
Greg's
ouch!
Greg's gonna have a fun Twitch stream,
and that's not in their control.
It is.
They hired somebody to handle it, and whether through intention or not, the ball was dropped.
Yeah.
And it sucks that a lot of the Ravensburger people are gonna have to eat crow on this. Yeah. Even though they weren't the ones whose website crashed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just, it's tough. It's a tough situation.
I think it is a reminder for people, Your feelings are valid.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be frustrated. A lot of people are frustrated.
A lot of people in our community are really frustrated,
Yeah.
and it's not because of this event, it's because they're worried. We are in Richmond.
We're in Richmond.
We are, Richmond is a really big Lorcana community, you know.
As I'm sure other cities have, but.
Right, but like, I mean, we're really passionate.
Yeah.
And our boards, like the Richmond Lorcana Discord channels and stuff, were just blown away by the fact that we get to host one.
Yeah.
But now it's actually turned into almost fear that it will be in our home city and we won't be able to go.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty and fear there. That's why, like, I mean, obviously I feel it. Like,
this was a litmus test for everybody.
Right. But so mentally, I am grateful that I have the opportunity to go to Milwaukee, and gonna have to train hard because it's the only chance. You just don't know.
Well, and you're playing for all the players that didn't get in.
Yeah, because I'm carrying that guilt with me. Typical.
Yeah, I think that this will be improved by the time the next round of events come out, right? This is sort of the fall event. By the time the winter events, you know, are up on sale, probably in the fall.
Yeah.
I'm sure there will be an improved system. Say what you will, Ravensburger does tend to learn from the mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure player event, what was it?
Pastime events.
I'll never get it.
If you also spent 45 minutes on their Discord today, actually that's a lie. I've spent a lot of time on their Discord because I was also there for the drama afterwards. So,
well,
people need to be nicer to their communications person.
They really do.
Poor girl's having a pretty rough day.
It's tough, and I mean, we work in marketing and communication, so it's like there's a certain level of empathy we have for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
But it is not ideal. You know, people are bummed, but more than that, people I think are just getting a little jaded by this. And I think like if I can kind of put a pin in this and then we'll move on, like, and tell me what you think about this, but like the real bummer from my perspective actually has nothing to do with how this was handled. I think the real problem is that the supply isn't even close to meeting the demand. It's not even close.
Yeah.
2,000 and whatever players for these events.
Yeah.
Like, they could double that and it would probably cap.
Yeah.
You know, there is so much, that's such a large community. Everybody's really passionate, especially in the United States. Everybody's, and probably in Europe too, everyone's willing to travel. Yeah. Like, it is, I mean, you see, I just know this, that like, I see Pokemon events that are easily, you know, capping 3,000 plus numbers. You know, they've been pushing into the 4,000 plus numbers, you know, and they're only growing, right? Because they keep increasing the cap. I think it's a real shame, and perhaps it was limitations with the venues. I have been in the Richmond Convention Center plenty. I just played a Star Wars Unlimited sector qualifier in the Richmond Convention Center. That was only like 600 to 800 players, right? So like, I understand there are probably limitations from a logistics perspective with certain venues over something like the Atlanta Convention Center, which, you know, is just absolutely enormous. But that's sort of the rub, right? Like, there's so many players that want to play, and because these are capped so low compared to the demand, I think that inherently is the problem more than anything else, because even if this had been a flawless launch, there would be just as many people irritated and bummed that they didn't get in. It just would have been for different reasons.
Correct.
There would have been people frustrated that it's an effective lottery system, right? So, I mean, that would have been preferable, but at the end of the day, there's still a lot of disappointed Lorcana fans just purely because of the low competitor player cap.
I agree with you on sentiment, but disagree with you on execution.
In which way?
So I don't think that the events need to be bigger. I think from a logistical standpoint, going from a 2,000 person event to a 4,000 person event is a bigger logistical. I think that to me, the biggest miss was the number of events.
Well,
so
yeah,
I look
that's
at
fair too.
If there were 5 North America events versus 3, and they were scattered more across the United States, you know, if this first event was in California, we might not be trying to go. I mean,
we wouldn't.
We probably wouldn't be trying to go. But because there's only 3, and they're all, you know, within a pretty close traveling distance for us, like, they're financially, you know, travelable, all that sorts of stuff. Like, we're going to try to go to all of them. But if there were 5 and we had 3 on the east coast / within travel distance and 2 on the west coast, we wouldn't be trying for those. And so I just think it would move the market of people.
It would spread it out.
Yeah.
Right.
But hey, check out TCG Player. Maybe those prices of the Maui Sharks have dropped. That's a joke.
Yeah, honestly.
We have to laugh through the pain.
That's funny, yeah. It's funny.
There's lots of threats. There were a lot of
tank the singles market now.
Yeah, no, it was more of there was a lot of people of like, I'm selling my whole collection. I'm never playing this game again.
Oh my gosh, people are so dramatic.
It was very dramatic. It was very entertaining.
Well, now would be probably a silly time for people to sell their collections because it's set champ season. In fact, from what I understand, last week was the first week of official set champ season. The week before that was like creator limited run set champs and stuff, like at the Disney stores and things like that. That's really cool. Invite us anytime. Ravensburger.
We're free.
I guess I'm pointing at a lot of people, but you know, I mean, actually, if anybody can invite us, I guess I'll show up to anyone's tournament.
Open invitation. You want a tournament? We'll show up.
We'll show up. It'll be great. It'll be fun.
We'll travel for
Lorcana. So what we are doing here is we're doing a meta overview. So the concept here is Lindsay's gonna pitch me decks, and I'm going to give you a breakdown of loosely and quickly how it works, what's good about it, and from my opinion, the things that have been successful trying to counter it.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, not everything can be countered by every deck, but I'm going to kind of give you the rough estimate. So if you're newer to the game, or if you have been a little bit in and out this season and you kind of just want a quick little refresher, hopefully, this will be effective for that. And then, of course, you know, I say this for our benefit. In post-production, I'm going to be flashing the lists up on the screen for everybody to look at so they understand what the heck I'm talking about. So, Lindsay, what are we doing first?
Right,
pitch me.
Let's start with the big bad Ruby Sapphire items build.
The items build, yes. So the way this wants to play, it's going to have a slower early game. They're going to ramp. They're going to set up a bunch of items that let them cheat characters like Belle and Scrooge McDuck into play for free while they can do other things with their ink. That's going to let them contest the mid game and hopefully get to their big board wipes in the form of Big Sisu, which is enhanced by the Sapphire Coil item, which lets them reduce the attack of enemy characters whenever the inks of the Big Sisu can wipe the board. They have a really cool card in Maurice's Workshop, which is going to turn every item they play into card draw, which is going to help them get deeper into the deck, and it means that their top decks are going to be really effective at extending their resources. And then the way they try to win is with Tamatoa, So Shiny, and Lucky Dime, which creates a sort of powerful 1-2 punch where they can kind of quickly gain lore based on each item they have in play, which they're going to have a lot. And that can typically get them to 20 all in one go over like 1 or 2 turns. So how to beat it? The best way to beat it is just go fast. Like truly, like that is the best way to beat it. If you have item removal, it's really good to save it for workshops. Most of the good players playing items aren't going to put a Lucky Dime down before they're ready to use it. So nuke those workshops so they don't have the card draw to find and filter into their big board wipes. That's pretty much it. I mean, just go fast. What's next? Pivoting
to the other big bad red-blue Sharks.
You just don't like red-blue.
I do hate red-blue. There's not a lot of decks I like right now.
So
I can tell you something about everyone.
Yeah, so Sharks is also known as the DKP list after our world champion who innovated the list actually like 2 sets ago or whatever. It's a little bit of the trendier build right now, probably because of that. Its whole goal is to ramp on 2 into a strong mid game game. So you've got rush characters like Super Goof and Maui to help stabilize the board. Before getting into your big board wipes, they run not just the Big Sisu, they also run Be Prepareds, some mix of the two, usually around 6 count. Sharks are the center point of how they actually win the game, though. That lets them recover action cards. It can be everything from their control cards, like the Be Prepared, to resource extension, like Develop Your Brain or Visions of the Future, or even, cards that let them steal lore, like Pirate's Life, which is a huge component of the deck. It helps them quickly, grab lore, lets them steal 2 lore from the opponent. They can sing it with the Maui Shark. They can get it back with the Shark when it challenges. So it's a way to not only help them get to 20, but it also keeps the decks that are trying to go under them from getting to 20 themselves, buying you those extra turns. One of the things that you do have to worry about is the fact that it can kind of control and slow the game down, but it also can go fast. It can put out turn 3 McDuck Manors, which are really hard for a lot of decks in the metagame to deal with, and helps them kind of stay even with those decks, but as the game gets later on, they are more powerful. So how to beat it? You can go ridiculously fast. If you get like multiple daisies out, it's really hard for them to control everything, but keep in mind they're ramping into rush characters often, or even just a Grammatalus, a 3/3 body that can clean up multiple things if you're a really fast deck. So you can go ridiculously fast and sometimes win the game, especially if you're on the play, but you can also kind of go like moderately fast, but then hold on to removal pieces for the Sharks. If you can sit there and deal with the Sharks when they come out, you can often and play around their board wipes to the best of your ability. That means don't overextend your board when they're on 6 ink about to go to 7. That means don't play, if you can avoid playing things with 2 attack or less, play things with 3-4 attack so that the Big Sisu can't hit them. And then a well-timed games referee can really mess with them too because they have so many actions. That's generally a good way to be able to kind of, you're not grinding them out of the game, but you're also not like throwing everything at trying to win in the first 5 turns. You're sort of saying, hey, listen, I'm going to extend this out just long enough. I'll spot remove their Sharks and then be able to finish the game. It's also very vulnerable to discard because it has great top decks, but it doesn't draw a lot of cards.
Yeah. All right, moving on to your formerly favorite color combination, Ruby Amethyst.
Yeah, so the bounce build is on the it's on the bench right now in favor of the evasive control. This is another shark deck, another Maui Shark deck, but it doesn't have the ramp, so that means that it can't rely on getting its B preps off super early because it's accelerating to that. Instead, it has to make it all 7 turns towards wiping the board. So it's doing that by leaning pretty heavily into a unique combo. You have Peter Pan Shadowfinder. What this is doing, it's a 3 cost that has rush and evasive, and it gives rush to all of your evasives. This is letting them control the fast decks by rushing into the aggro decks with things like Iago, Genie, but it's also letting them rush their Mauis, which is sort of covering one of the problems that Red-Blue has with the Shark, which is that you have to play it and wait a turn before you can challenge and get the action. This does not have to wait. So anytime they've got that Peter Pan down, they're going to be able to bring their Maui, take something out, get an action back, either draw more cards off of it, or wipe the board with a Be Prepared. It does tend to draw quite a few cards. It can grind out some longer games against any deck that can't get its feet underneath itself. And it uses Pirate's Life, just like the other deck, to be able to stabilize against the fast decks and cheat out wins with those surprise bursts of lore. So how you beat it? It's kind of a weird one to say. The real thing is play around their power spikes. So they're going to be looking for a few kind of 2-card combos, and that's one of the things that you have to like worry about is if they have a pan out, that means that they can rush their Maui in, which of course is really bad for you because it's generating more resources for them. So if they have that pan, deal with the pan so they can't play the Maui. But once they get to 10 ink, they can play them both on the same turn, or 9 ink, excuse me. Once they get to 9 ink, they can play them both on the same turn. You have to be aware of these, ink numbers. If they're on going into 7 ink, you know that they can be prepared. So like, just play around those combinations. At 7 ink, they can go Peter Pan and Iago and really cause you a lot of problems. So play around those things. Discard is kind of up and down against this. If it draws a lot of cards early, the discard tends to not be quite as effective. But the thing to remember too is aggressive decks have a little bit of a better game into this. if they're really bulky, lots of, thicker units, right?
Like Trinidogs.
Trinidogs, things like that. Because obviously the board wipes, they have to wait all those turns. So you actually can kind of, if you're on the play, get to 20 before their turn 7. And that's a good enough way to play. You just have to worry about all the rush units. So, yeah.
All right. My favorite deck. We've got Blurple, mid-range control.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure you could do this too.
No, it's more fun to watch you do it.
Okay, I'll try to do you justice.
Some
notes,
flair.
some flavor, yeah. So it is sort of a mid-range or control deck, depending on how you want to position. It's definitely a slower deck.
It's more mid-range if you see 1-drops. It's more control if you don't.
There you go. Right from the expert. So you try to start the game with Popsicle and Bell to get a strong body into play. It doesn't happen every game, but it happens more than you would think. And it's trying to ramp onto into the powerful Amethyst mid-game tools that you see in Ruby Amethyst and pretty much every Amethyst deck. These are cards that let them draw cards, like the Genie has thick bodies, like the Iago, and Rush with Elsa, and damage movement with Bell. There's just such a strong, cohesive package. All of those big bodies supplement Bell. It has all of that removal. It also runs some rush characters. Often it runs the big whale.
Everybody's favorite big whale.
And it also has the 7-drop Hades out of blue, which is really good for spot removing your big bulky threats like the Hades or like the Mauis and stuff like that. The Beast Tragic Hero and stuff like that. That's going to be quickly eaten up and thrown into your Inkwell from the 7-drop Hades. The cool thing and the thing that's really unique about this archetype is they have the Madame Mim Fox, which is often used to bounce back. They're really strong when played characters like the Hades. So just because, they've played their Hades down, they don't need a second Hades all the time to use it. They might be able to play the Fox, bounce it back, and replay it for that extra controlling feature. So how to beat it?
You don't. You just
never
let it win.
Let Lindsay win.
All hail the Blue Ball. We are not worthy.
In my experience as somebody who plays against it a lot, bulky characters are helpful. Just because they've got a lot of bulky characters that will munch up your stuff and then live. If you can, it's always helpful to go wide. They don't have board wipes, and so you can remember that. If you can go wide, they have a hard time dealing with multiple things in one turn. Most of their stuff is single target or challenge based. And then obviously, whenever they put damage on their characters, keep in mind they have the ability to heal that damage with popsicles, or even worse, move that damage onto your characters with the big bell. So try to avoid letting them keep damage on their tanky characters like the Iagos and the Hades and stuff, because it is more and more of a risk the longer you let the game go. It does tend to be vulnerable-ish to discard. And the other thing to keep in mind is if you're a deck that has a lot of steel removal, you can just wipe their things off the board as they play them. And that really is hard for them to respond. They're a deck that needs to have units on the board to do things. They buff their units, they move damage off their units, they rush things and bounce stuff back. So they need stuff on the board. If you can kind of just kill their stuff as it comes out, you're in a really good spot.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Yeah. The only thing was that, Blurple's never had a board wipe. The closest thing we have to a board wipe now is Monstro.
True.
So that's the thing to play around. Because it's probably one of the biggest changes to the deck this set. Obviously, Monstro comes in with 8 ink, so that's going to be turn 7 usually for most Blurple decks. But he does require that you discard a card to ready him and send him back into things. So keeping that in mind with how many cards they have in their hand.
Great idea.
If they've got a handful of cards and they're about to turn 8 ink, maybe don't turn things to the right. But if not, they've only got 1 card in hand, safe to bet that they're going to eat 1 thing, maybe 2. So
cool.
That's all.
What's next?
Next, we've got Amber Emerald discard control. So
yes,
we used to call sing songs.
In this household, we call it sing songs.
Sing song deck.
But yeah, Amber Emerald discard. It is a control deck. Obviously, it doesn't control through killing things. It controls through limiting what the opponent's resources are by discarding cards from their hand. Actually, in fact, we're going to talk about 3 different discard decks. And so keep in mind as we talk about each one, all three of them are built around the same card draw engine of Shift Diablo, which lets you draw whenever the opponent draws on their turn, and Prince John, which draws whenever the opponent discards. And so between those two things, they're able to get these value engines on board, and if they are left undisrupted, they're able to just draw tons and tons and tons of cards and eventually discard your hand and then deal with your board. And that's kind of how they do it. They want to rip your hand and then get rid of your stuff. Each deck is tends to have those same sort of commonalities of the discarding green cards, but because they're each paired with different secondary colors, they have different threats to be aware of. Amber Emerald relies on a super thick song count to make the most of the card The Muses, which lets you bounce 2 attacks or lower back to the opponent's hand whenever you sing a song. That tends to stem the bleeding in the mid game. It has a special access to additional Amber discard cards in the form of You Have Forgotten Me, which just forces 2 discards in one action, and the Bare Necessities, which can look at an opponent's hand and snipe a non-character card right out of their hand. So those extra discard makes it probably one of the most discard heavy strategies. Finally, and probably the most importantly, so listen up, it has access to a really hard to stop one-sided board wipe combo. Uses Kita to lower the attacks of all characters in play by 3, and then will sing Under the Sea a lot of times with either their singers or even just warded units that they're able to put into play and you can never touch them. Sings it to send all opponent's characters with 2 attack or less to the bottom of the deck. It only hits the opponent, so again, that typically after that they just start questing out every turn and try to win from there. Hopefully they've discarded your hand by that point. So it's a very, very tough deck, very controlling, a lot of things to worry about, but how do you beat it? First off, sometimes it just loses to itself. Like, that's just the reality.
It really does. I played this a couple of times at Set Champs early on, early versions of it, and it was just, sometimes it just loses to itself. Yeah,
and like, you can't, obviously that's not how you want to play, but sometimes you'll get wins because it is a combo deck at its core. It needs 2 cards to go together to do pretty much anything. But outside of that, try to banish their singers. Oftentimes they'll run the 2-drop Ursula Vanessa. They'll run the singer Ariel, of course. Get rid of those whenever you can, because those are the cards that are going to sing Under the Sea. You pretty much want to limit them from ever having 8 cost characters, not 8 cost characters, but 8 total cost of characters on the board at the same time if you can. If you're any other Emerald deck, discard them right back. They actually are so reliant on their songs that they often can't do anything until they can find new ones. So if you can discard their songs with Ursula Deceiver or play Pete to make sure that you get a turn where you don't have to worry about them playing songs and bouncing them with muses, you can get these power spike turns against them, which will get you closer to 20. Try to prioritize playing units with more than 2 attack. That's always, that's actually a pretty strong thing in the metagame in general right now. And then once you've gotten to sort of a comfortable ink, and you'll see that like this is pretty much the case against any discard deck. Once you get to a comfortable ink and you have at least some things on board, try to empty your own hand so they can't discard it and refill their hand off of Prince John. And so if you can limit their card draw from Prince John, you can usually be in an okay spot to get to 20 before they can find their next Under the Sea. Yeah. Emerald Steel. Yes, so this has sort of been a terror in past sets. It has been a little bit more out of vogue this set, but it's undoubtedly very, very powerful. So this build is combining the discard of Emerald with the removal songs of Steel, which works really perfectly because it accents a amazing legendary Ursula Deceiver of All, who gets to get double effect from every song that she sings. So that turns a Storm Rage on from a 2 damage, draw a card, to a 4 damage, draw 2 cards if she sings it. And that goes for everything all the way to Sudden Chills, discard 2 cards instead of just 1. So very powerful engine to get these massive swingy turns, right? The toughest part about this deck is it can supplement the Diablo and Prince John draw engines with Steel draw engines like Sad Beast, or sometimes Doc, depending on who's building the deck. And of course, the new Beyond the Horizon is seeing some play as well, and I think people thought it was going to be the thing that breaks the game. It hasn't done that, but it is very strong, because if you sing Beyond the Horizon when you have a Prince John in play, you can reset your hand, draw cards off of all the cards that they discard, and now they have cards in hand for you to discard yet again to draw more cards with Prince John.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
A bit of a 1-2 punch.
A very, very deadly 1-2 punch. Unlike Amber Emerald, it does have a much better matchup into aggressive strategies. I think Amber Emerald, like, you can kind of go fast, and as long as you're playing around those specific cards, you can sometimes get them before they can find enough board space to play, to sing Under the Sea. But for this, you've got a great matchup into most aggressive decks because you have the steal removal. You also have some really nice matchups into the action-based decks, not just other discard, but also like the red-blue Sharks deck and stuff like that because of your access to Pete. So, how to beat this deck? Generally, you don't want to let Ursula Deceiver of All or Diablo stick around. I mean, that seems obvious, but it's worth saying.
Yeah.
The other thing is, this deck, once those cards are gone, you can drop your hand size to prevent Prince John from being able to draw, and then you'll run them out of cards, and even more so than other decks because like Amber Emerald has Ariel, which if you top deck an Ariel, bam, you're right back in the mix, right?
Yeah.
They have a lot of slower developing cards. Okay, if your opponent has no cards in hand and you're playing Emerald Steel, that cuts off an entire major component of your deck, which is that Prince John. And then if you play Beast, you have to wait a turn, right? If you play Diablo, you have to wait a turn. And so it lets you, as the player against them, figure out, oh, they have Beast, now I need to find a way to deal with it. So yeah, try to run the Emerald Steel discard out of cards.
Yeah.
That tends to be a pretty effective strategy.
And while we're still talking about discard,
I know, it's
for
your
the
favorite.
third deck, lots of discard in the meta. Expect to leave your set champs
with no cards in hand.
no cards in hand. The Emerald Amethyst discard.
Yes, Emerald Amethyst. This is sort of a discard tempo deck. It's not really a control deck. It has controlling components, but you're just trying to create enough of a disparity in value between both the board and the hand sizes that you can kind of quest out and kind of snowball into a win. So of the discard decks, it's the least control-y. It pairs the discard of Emerald with a strong evasive package of Amethyst that we've seen in Blurple and Ruby Amethyst. And so that's, of course, the Elsas. It runs often some Peter Pan Shadowfinders, Iagos, all that good stuff, those evasives and Genie, to be able to not only answer aggro, because you've got those, some of those rush characters, but it's able to actually pressure lore through evasives, which are hard for decks to interact with, while you're also discarding their hand.
Yeah.
And so you're able to kind of keep parity in lore a little bit better, unlike Emerald Steel and Amber Emerald, which have to sit there and basically collect no lore until the game's already been won. You're able to actually kind of pressure along the way, which means you can get into racing scenarios where you don't have to discard their whole hand in order to win. So it's a little bit more of a flexible game plan. And gives you different ways to answer different decks. One of the coolest things about this deck, and I think the thing that's keeping it in the metagame, is the pull the lever, wrong lever combo.
Yeah.
Pull the lever is a new action that lets them choose to either draw 2 or discard 1 from the opponent. And then wrong lever is an action which lets them bounce a character back to hand, but if pull the lever's in the discard pile, you can send the character to the bottom of the deck instead. Obviously, that means that, as the game gets later on, their removal options get stronger and stronger and stronger because it's more likely for pull the levers to be in the discard pile.
Right.
So, how to beat it. Mulligan for your evasive answers. Good Lord, find your evasive answers.
Yes.
Do not let them stick a Diablo, because one of the things I didn't mention, they have the most consistent turn 2 Diablo shift in the game. They get to run the 4 green Diablos as is normal, but also the 4 purple Diablos. And so they have a very consistent way to get that Diablo shifted and into play and start drawing a fistful of cards. You want to prevent that under any circumstances, or even if they get it, you want to remove it as fast as you can. So find answers for Diablos. Find answers for Genies, or they'll run away with the game single-handedly. So find your evasive answers.
Evasive answers are key.
You absolutely need them. Remove their evasives on sight. Dump your hand in the mid-game so that they don't get value out of a sneaky Prince John. They often run 2 or 3 Prince Johns instead of the full complement of 4. So you can get trapped into this thinking of, well, they don't have the Prince John, I don't need to worry about it. You do. They will often slam it and then discard your cards all in the same turn. So dump your hand in the mid-game. Try to build a beefy board state that they can't efficiently deal with. Remember, they don't have the board wipe of Amber Emerald. They don't have the steal removal cards. Most of the time, the way they're going to to deal with your board state outside of Wrong Lever, and we don't talk about Bruno, which are expensive, and they're not songs, so they can't sing it. They're going to run units into your stuff. Bruno's a song, but they often don't have 5-drops to sing it.
They don't have a lot of 5-drops to sing it.
Oftentimes it's just Elsa's out there, and so if they don't have a 5-drop to sing it, they sometimes have to hard cast Bruno. So make them work to remove your stuff. That's a big element of it.
Moving on to who's kind of been the big bad for the past couple of sets a little bit. So we've got Amber Steel. So starting with our we've all tried it, we've loved it, we hate it, Steel Song.
Yeah, so we're going to, spoiler, but we're talking about 2 different Amber Steel decks here, because they're different enough that they have to be talked about separately.
Yes.
So the Amber Steel Song, this has been a mid-range strategy that's been around since literally set 2.
Yeah.
It's still very popular. It's got a huge loyal contingent of players. It's a glass cannon of a deck. What it does very well.
Yeah.
But it is one of those decks that it's very, very, very powerful when it hits, and when it misses, it flounders.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you're in a tournament setting, you still have to do some things to make sure you don't walk right into all of their traps, or make mistakes that give them time to get set up and find their answer. So the way that it works is that it's establishing early game singers like Cinderella, like the Troubadour, Vanessa, Ursula Vanessa, or even now shifting the 1-drop Rhino onto the 4-drop Rhino onto the 1-drop Rhino on turn 2, which actually opens up a singer 4 on turn 2.
Yeah, so
pretty
Zeus
wild. Zeus can be sung as early as turn 2. It's crazy. And so all of those singers, let them sing the really powerful songs way ahead of when the game designers expected them to be being sung. So that's letting them obliterate any of the early game threats that would get a lot of decks going, right? The Diablos and stuff like that want to get on the board. They want to get their draw engines going, and those things get just wiped off the board immediately. So then, depending on the build, there's not a consensus right now on if you should play with Whole New World, or if instead you should play more like single card draw things like Beast, Tragic Hero, but historically it's been Whole New World. I would expect to see Whole New World until proven otherwise in a match. That lets
Rapunzel,
them.
I think both decks run Rapunzel.
Both decks run Rapunzel. So the Whole New World will let them refill their hand, both players' hands to 7, discarding all the other cards, which sometimes can be a boon to the opponent. But once they have some singers in play, they sing Whole New World.
They don't have a board wipe.
They get a fistful. Yeah, exactly. They get a fistful of removal songs and use the things that already in play to sing and remove stuff. They create a super one-sided board, and then snowball the rest of their way for the win. So how to beat it? Focus on high willpower characters. These, especially 2-drops, these are really hard for them to one-shot with kill songs. It's really hard for them to get 3 units on the board to do 3 damage with a Strength of Raging Fire, and obviously we know that the Storm Rage On only does 2, so it's really hard for them to remove anything with 3 willpower or higher on turn 2. And as you get through the mid game, if you can, always try to keep more characters on board than they have singers. And unless you're playing aggro against them, which is a really bad matchup, don't quest too early and give them free trades. Because it makes them able to then remove your stuff and sing with the other characters to remove the things you just developed. So the other thing is you never want to give them free trades that they're going to live, because they'll play Rapunzel, heal that damage, draw a bunch of cards, and probably find more kill cards. Try to avoid leaving damage on their characters, like I said. Banish any of their singers whenever they exert them. If you can rush characters in to banish their singers, if you have characters that survived and you can buff them or whatever, remove their singers from play. That is the root of their strategy. At some point they have to exert them. Be ready to punish that. The deck's very vulnerable to ward characters. It's vulnerable to discard, especially Ursula Deceiver. If you're a green deck, you're mulliganing for that every single time. And it's vulnerable to board wipes if you can get to that point in the game before losing. So that's how to beat Steel Song. Sometimes similar to Amber Emerald, sometimes they just beat themselves. But it's a tough matchup and one that you have to be very, very careful. They like to play fast. Slow down. Be very considerate with your options. Remember that sometimes developing something that is just tanky is the right play. Yeah. All right.
Now, how does that change? How does that differ from the aggro version of Amber Steel?
Yeah, so the aggro version is a little bit of a newer strategy over the past couple sets. It's a very popular one now, especially with some of the new additions. It has both a low skill floor, so that means it's a nice deck for newer players. It's a good entry level deck to be able to pick up and learn the basic lines, but it also has a decently high skill ceiling, so that you can really make the most of some of the unique combinations within it. It looks to combine some of the early game Amber singers like the Cinderella, the Rhinos, with some of the Steel songs, but usually not the full complement, and then pairs that with the ever dominant Amber aggro core of Daisy Duck, Piglet, the new lady, which lets them pull 2-drops into play. It also has the really strong Steel aggro core of Calhoun and Mr. Smee especially. And then, of course, it will try to develop that wide board state of things that quest for 2 or 3, things that are sticky with either high stats like Lawrence, right? A 4/4 for 3, the new Rhino, things with resist. And then it's also going to remove your songs here and there, or remove your units with songs here and there before refilling the hand with not just Rapunzel's, now they are running docks. So they empty their hand, play that 2-drop, get 2 more cards, and help them kind of keep the pressure up. So how to beat it. Like the songs deck, you really just don't want to let them get Rapunzel's off, but more, even almost more so. Like, you just cannot give them free cards. Look for your high attack characters. Or effects that buff those characters, because you're going to need them in the 3, 4, 5 turns to be able to overcome the resist, not just from Rhinos, but also from Penny, which will come down, it'll heal something, and it'll give something resist for a round. So you need to find ways, the rush cards, the buffs, kill songs, or lore stealing is actually very effective against this deck as a way to keep it in check, because it's really important to remember these Amber Steel decks in general, but especially the aggro deck, they have like no real reach other than shifting. The only reach they have is if they have a shift character that has a higher lore than the thing they're shifting onto. And in this deck, it's almost always just Rhino. So if you're ever in a situation where your opponent's at like, I don't know, 19 or 18, and you're trying to pick off the right thing, you're deciding between a Rhino and something else that has a 1 questing, you actually want to get rid of the Rhino because they can shift it in and quest for an extra point. So that's how you beat it. It's a tough deck. It really is. And you got to be ready for it.
And my key reminder for anybody playing Amethyst and the damage, remember that Rhino's resist is once he's damaged, the resist goes away. But also, moving damage counters gets around resist.
It does. So like, Big Bell.
Big Bell has been my Rhino answer. So I mean they don't shift it on turn 2, which is I can't see Bell for a minute, but I know other decks are playing things that move damage. So all right, one more for you.
That's right.
So the Amethyst Steel, the always fair Amethyst Steel.
The ever fair, but maybe the least fair it's been in a while.
That's fair.
So Amethyst Steel aggro, it is, whereas Amber Steel is kind of got this, it's all about the raw stats, the efficient song removal, right? Amethyst Steel aggro is all about reach and longevity. And so by pairing the Steel aggro core that we just talked about of like Smee, Calhoun, and Doc with the extra card draw and the quick lore gains of Amethyst, the deck can really pressure not just in the early game by spitting out units and questing, but as the game continues, it can continue finding ways to get little bursts of lore here and there and push and push and push and push to 20. They don't really worry if their cards get board wiped or banished because they're usually able to draw so many cards. They can just, okay, my things got killed, I'm playing more. Okay, my things got killed, I'm playing more. Between Merlin Goat, White Rose, and Giant Cobra, the deck has so many ways to squeeze out games from just top decks. There's like no deck more dangerous at like 17, 18 lore than this deck.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really scary. You see them at 18 lore and you know that like you have 1 or 2 turns left, if that, to try to find a win. So it is. It's a deck that I think is maybe. I don't want to say it's slept on because it did get some nice, advertisement in Worlds. I think more people are on it than ever before. But I will say I think that people also unfortunately underestimate it.
Yeah.
And they just don't understand how much lore people can get from hand for free. So, how to beat it. Aggressively fight for control of the board if you can, and race them while they try to rebuild their hand. Sometimes people do this thing, and I'm guilty of this, and I had to learn this lesson the hard way over this season, but like, you'll be playing a controlling deck, and you'll say, I could remove this thing, but it means one of my characters will die in the process. Or I could let them have some lore this turn, and I'll worry about removing things next turn. If you do that too much, you can't give them free turns of questing, because they're going to gain about like 7 lore across the course of the game just from putting things into play, not even needing to quest them. So do not give them space to quest. Aggressively fight for control of the board, or rush to your board wipes, and be prepared to play multiple of your board wipes, because they're going to be filling their hand up with all of the amethyst and steel draw. Rush characters, removal songs, and lore drain, again, are really effective against this, because you just cannot let them
let them get too close.
You can't let them get too close, because they will find the reach. That's what this deck is all about. That is the reason to play it. So that is Amethyst Steel, and that is the meta game that I would expect for set champs.
You can take a deep breath now.
I can. Anyways. Hope that was helpful to people. Let us know in the comments. There were some decks that you might run into something different, but I think that is safely, it's a nice round number. 10 is a nice even number.
There's always some outliers.
There are outliers out there, but these are the decks that you should prepare for. Anything that's not on this list, in my opinion, is not something worth worrying about.
Yeah. You're just going to have to play that match when that deck sits across from you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So real quick, we'll run through our welcome wagon. I think that we've talked about sort of tournament etiquette, things like that. But Lorcana etiquette for set champs.
It's a little different.
It's a little bit different. I think if this is your first time playing in a tournament, or if you're new to an area, or different things like that, I think while you're playing, I think that you want to be on top of your game. You want to play kind of your crispest playing.
True.
Don't try to sneak things out. Like, again, there's judges here. People can call judges on you. So, like, when I'm playing in the game, I always ink face up. I leave that card face up for the remainder of my turn so that my player can see that I've inked, so that I know that I've inked this turn. I talk through all of my game actions. I'll never forget the first tournament I played where I literally said every single thing that I was doing. And it's a really helpful practice to have when you're playing in a tournament, especially at set champs, to just kind of make it very obvious to your opponent of what's going on, like, so that and also that you're slowing down and you're making sure you're hitting all of your triggers.
I think that's actually both of the things you just said, both inking face up and announcing all of your game actions, are really... Yes, it's polite to your opponent, especially like leaving your ink face up. I see players all the time, and I don't know if it's intentional or if it's like a gamesmanship thing, but they'll like show it to you really fast and then put it down. And not only do I personally find that mildly disrespectful, but I also think it's dumb.
Right.
I think the reality is you also want to remember the things you ink. And by leaving it up for a turn, you're getting to look at it for a whole round, just like your opponent is.
Yeah.
But more than that, it's a nice little ritual to signal the end of your turn.
Yeah.
That is how I know. If I'm turning my card down, that is how it's always how I end my turn, because I want to make sure that I've done everything beforehand. And if you're playing a deck that can ramp at all, or like, especially if you're playing like Sail the Azurite Sea or something like that, like, it's really helpful to know the cards, like, that, hey, I've already inked for turn.
Yeah.
Like, better not do that again, or, I'll get in trouble. And so I have...
Or if you're sitting across them and they're like, did I ink this turn? I'm going to assume that you did.
Yeah, if you don't have a card face up...
It's not my responsibility to remember if you did.
That is absolutely true, and that's a judge will hold that up, right? And so, like, if you're ever... It helps you make sure that you can just set that part of your brain aside. And same with announcing game actions. Like slowing down enough to verbalize something often makes sure you don't miss something. Yeah. Like missing a broom trigger or something like that.
I typically, with Chernobog's followers, if I'm not triggering it, I will say, like, quest with Chernobog's followers, not trigger its effect, or like, if you're playing the Mulan or cards that give you an opportunity that have May actions, like acknowledging that you're not triggering its effect is helpful, don't assume that the person across from you knows exactly what your card does either.
True.
So being able to sort of it is safe to assume that if somebody's at a set champs that they know what most cards in the meta do. Like, I think that that's fair, and always be polite if somebody asks, like, to clarify, and never be hesitant if you're unsure of what a card does to ask if you can read the card or if you can ask for them to explain it to you. But I think talking through the action that your card does is fine. Like, if you've been playing at League and it's more casual and you're just kind of cranking out matches, it's easy.
Yeah.
To just be like, bell, through there to there. Like, it's just, it's better to talk through those things. So, it seems like an obvious one, but avoid using your phone during the game. So I have my phone put away. I actually usually take my watch off because I inevitably will end up looking at it if it buzzes. I think it's just distracting and, you just never want somebody to feel weird about it. So I would avoid using your phone.
It's also a little bit rude, like especially even in a tournament environment, especially, but even in a casual environment, like if I ever have to answer my phone, and trust me, it happens.
Yeah.
I acknowledge it. Say, hey, I'm so sorry, I have to check this.
Yeah.
Like you want, especially because your opponent might be announcing their game actions and you're interrupting them, or it's their turn and they look up and you're sitting there playing on your phone. It's very rude. Unless you acknowledge it and say, I'm sorry,
Life happens.
Hey, the boss man's calling. I'm sorry, I got to take this, whatever. Like, people are understanding, but don't sit there and play Candy Crush.
Yeah, and if your opponent answers their phone, you can call a judge to acknowledge the time disruptance.
Right,
So
and they'll often give you a time extension.
Exactly. So, because life happens, people sometimes have to be available, but also, within reason.
Yep.
And then another one is asking for takebacks. So, and it goes both ways. It's different if you know the person you're playing against, and there is no set. But I think it's safe to you're playing a competitive event.
Yep.
You are supposed to be on top of your game. The expectation is that there are no takebacks. So, so I typically won't ask for them at all. Sometimes I'll acknowledge them afterwards and be like, oh man, I really played that one wrong. Like, I should have quested before I bounced that character. But it doesn't mean that's a lesson that I have to internalize and learn and remember. So, and same goes if somebody else is asking you for a take back. You're allowed to say no. I'm so sorry. It's gonna, I get it. I hear you, but we're playing for prizing here, and we're paying. And most importantly, we're playing for bragging rights. So
I think the thing with takebacks, it is okay to ask, but it's not okay to make someone feel bad about saying no.
Yeah.
That is that is a huge irritation for me when I see that, and I will often call people out on it if I see them do that. And I'm somebody. You can ask anybody in the Richmond scene. I am usually going to let people take things back, especially if it's something that was an obvious brain fart. If somebody's like, man, I forgot. They play Fox to bounce their rabbit, and then immediately go supposed to quest the rabbit. Yeah, cool, whatever. Go for it. But there's also a difference between somebody playing something, waiting 5 seconds, maybe even taking another action, and then going, oh man, can I have that back? And that's where, rightfully, people should say, well, no, we've kind of moved past that. And the appropriate answer is the player asking for take back, and someone just say no is totally cool. Just thought I'd ask, made a mistake, realized it, but no big deal.
Yeah.
Right? Because they don't owe that to you.
Yeah, agreed. You're probably nicer than I am. I was like, don't ask for takebacks. And you're like, you can if you want. I mean, I guess you always can.
I mean, you always can. And
if you don't ask, the answer's no. But also, don't be surprised if the answer is also still no.
So literally everybody has had a little momentary brain fart. I've literally done a thing where I'm planning my entire turn out. It's multiple game actions, everything. And I go, okay, I'm going to ink. And I'm holding the wrong card.
Yeah.
I'm going to ink Cricky, and I'm like, oh wait, that's not Cricky, that's Ursula. Sorry, here's Cricky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
that's Elsa. Sorry, you meant to ink Cricky and play Elsa.
Literally, I am one of those people where if somebody has a obvious quick oops, oopsie daisy thing.
Yeah.
Man, I don't want to win off of something silly like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want that win. Don't give me that win. I want to earn the win.
Some people are fine taking that win.
I know they are, and that's fine.
comment.
That's fine. But but I also even if I do that, even if I'm like oh shoot, I put down this card, but this card's right here. It's just I was gonna eat this and play this, and I did the opposite. Like obvious brain fart, and someone's like, nope. My answer is always still totally fair. My bad.
Yeah.
It's just, you have to be graceful about it. Ultimately, you're expected to be mistake-free. Mm-hmm. And so, be polite if you're on whichever end of it.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest thing, is to be polite and be courteous. I thought of another thing when we were talking about like asking for takebacks and things like that, about talking through what you're doing.
Yeah.
And this is less common, so I don't want this to scare anyone away, but there are people who also are very aware of the rules and will sort of game shark their way. And
for sure.
So if you talk through your turn, so if you say like, we all are aware of the drama that happened with somebody writing down his lore before popping his broom in there. Like, there's talking through what you're planning to do just kind of makes your opponent aware. So if somebody is trying to like, oh, you waited too long on your Diablo trigger, like you can't draw your card anymore. That's unlikely to happen, and those aren't the most sportsman-like players.
Yep.
But I think slowing down, kind of owning that and talking through what you're doing, not like overly explaining what you're doing, but just sort of talking through your turn, that can help you there. So.
Yeah, for sure.
And then out of game, obviously they're usually in tight spaces, so I think being polite and friendly, if you want to chat with people, you can chat with people. Just try to avoid doing it where people are playing.
Yeah. This happens a lot.
It happens a lot.
And nobody means to do it.
Especially if you're at the end, because there's going to be people still milling about that want to watch. And like, if you want to watch the people who are still playing because you finished, it's okay to like stand around and kind of watch, but don't hover, don't invade people's space. Yeah. It seems obvious, but you'd be amazed how often it happens. Don't try to have a conversation with somebody across the table and be shouting over the people who are playing. I think it's, you really just want to be courteous of your surroundings and be thoughtful. Think if you were the one playing, what you would want someone to do. Yep. Try not to talk too loud. Offering the opponent to shuffle or cut the deck.
That's just one of those things where obviously you should be shuffling, and at some point maybe we'll do a little guide to shuffling. And I know that sounds like really silly for probably... 3/4 of the audience, but not everybody's grew up like I did shuffling cards. Yeah. You know what I mean? And there are certain standards when you're playing in a competition, you're shuffling your deck, right? But obviously, after every shuffle, you should be offering it to your opponent to cut, or they're allowed to pick it up and shuffle. Yep.
Sometimes people cut it different ways,
But the other thing is too, if you're playing at a fast pace because the game 1 and 2 went long, and there's a universal. A lot of people don't know this. There's a universal. I taught this to a few people the other day. Mm-hmm. The universal symbol for no, I'm going to decline to cut is just tap their deck. Yeah. Right, and that if you trust the person, and you're trying to play fast to finish a round, this happens to all the time. In tournaments, if I'm playing somebody that I personally know in the local area that I respect and trust, I'm just going to be like, tap, let's keep going. Let's move the game along. Let's move it along. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's often that you'll see...
If you see that, now you know what it is.
Yeah. It's often if you're not used to offering... So I feel like the first time I was playing, even in a casual, and somebody offered, do you want to cut the deck? I'm like... it took me off guard. So just be prepared for people to ask that. And, I actually, it's a mental thing for me. So typically when I'm in league play or doing something that's more casual, I don't cut the deck, because I'm like, it's kind of like, it tells my brain that it can, like, you're playing to learn, you're playing for fun, whatever, versus like, when I'm playing in a tournament, I always want to cut the deck, and I'm like, it has nothing to do with my opponent and trusting them or not. It's just so that mentally I'm like, okay, game is on, like, you know,
and it's a serious game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I think those are kind of the main rules. When in doubt, be polite, be courteous, be thoughtful of your surroundings and the people around you. Do unto others as you would want done to you. So, pretty simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. And good luck. And be sportsmanlike. Sometimes it sucks to lose or do great, but just be sportsmanlike.
Yeah. Well, that is all we've got for today's episode. Mm-hmm. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Next week, I'm not exactly sure what we're going to be covering. I do know that we will probably be giving a brief recap of our first set champs of the season. Mm-hmm. It's going to only be spinning up from there because we've got like a 3 or 4 week rush of set champs that we're going to be preparing for. So I don't know.
Recap for the next couple of weeks.
Right, exactly. I don't know exactly what else we'll be covering, but I can guarantee you it will be things that will hopefully be useful to you as you navigate the set champ season. So, as always, don't forget to follow, subscribe, comment, like, all of the engagement metrics. If you are listening, like on iTunes, for instance, or whatever, Apple Podcasts, whatever they call it these days, leave us a review. That's really, really helpful. Same with Spotify. Share it with your friends, and follow Lindsay on Local Lore Lens.
Yeah.
I think that's about it. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you on the next one.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care.